All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, the 19th, not necessarily Monday, but the beginning of the week. I do that all the time whenever we have 3-day weeks. So, what do we get today? Well, a couple things, and I'll talk about today's. There was a couple noticeable areas that had some momentum to it, but overall, the market. This is what I put out this morning. I was talking about really depending on what your game plan is. For me, it's kind of tough, right? I mean, I put out a lot of trade ideas on the weekend, and you just kind of have to pick and choose, right? I've had about 10 stocks that I was looking at, but you have to kind of really pick and choose what you want to. And I also have a lot of alerts set every day, on things where I think are at crucial kind of pivot areas. But this is just what sometimes you have to go a little bit with your gut, right? And I said that I thought that there was a lot of pops and stops so far this morning, is what I said earlier. And then I said we did have to go through value. Now, we did do that. So I was actually surprised. And I am positioned long, so I do hope we rally. But, it's just kind of a tough area to add a lot of risk. So I'll talk about what I did today, as I always provide full transparency into what I do. But we basically finished flat for the day, and if you chased a little bit into these moves, you may not have had a great result for the day. So that was the S&P. I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it for the day. Looking at some areas of the market, and I'll give you a couple examples. Some things that I was looking at. I'll start with the FANG stocks because I know a lot of people look at the FANG stocks, and then I'll talk about some other areas of the day. But Netflix was one. If you if you got long right around the open, there was some sneaky moves. But this Netflix, it just keeps on getting to the day's recent highs, and it stalls out. So maybe it will go, but it just seems like tricky. It just seems like I feel like you don't want to chase, or I don't want to chase because I have a feeling things are just going to evaporate a little bit. Being that we have a week where I think the market is, we had a really nice week last week, and I think that maybe we went a little bit too far too fast, but especially in the small caps. But again, that's just my opinion. Amazon held the day's gains again, kind of I would say sneaky move, just went up, and some of these moves on the first 5 minutes, and again, this is why I think it's been a little bit tricky. Some of the moves that we see on a regular basis on the first 5 minutes in the FANG stocks, sometimes they get bid and then they completely fall apart. But Amazon kept going today. Apple is another one that I think is kind of tightly wound up, I should say. And where I'm seeing that is on the 1 hour chart. Let's just wait for Apple to come up here. Yeah, so you can see that you got the moving averages, some of the short-term moving averages. The purple is the 50. You got the blue is the 20, and the yellow is the 5. They're all kind of wound together. I thought we were going to see this thing rip. Maybe it might just need a little bit more time, but it's still in value. So I took a shot on a couple on the first break, on the 1 hour break. But keep an eye. This could also break to the downside. There's nothing right now. It is leaning to the upside, but I've seen fake outs before where things also start to break to the downside, false break, and then they do this. I would be mindful of this as well. So really, the two levels to watch. And again, I thought I had it 1 hour break. But then we just sank right back. It just gave it all back, which again, a little bit representative of being right now a little bit tricky. So 171.09 is the level to watch, and then on the level to the downside is 169.81. So if they come away and, this could have some trade headline stuff built into it. If they come away with some trade progress this week, I think on Thursday is when they're supposed to really, when the senior officials are supposed to meet. I think Trump said today that again, which he said towards the end of last week, that March 1st may not have to be the set deadline. So we'll see how that goes and how that ends up. I feel like we haven't had a surprise in a while, so I don't know. That's why maybe I'm being a little bit cautious. But that's Apple. What else was I going to look at today? We'll talk a little bit about Bitcoin. I'll tell you a couple trades that I did today. HIIQ. This is a name that I've been watching for the last couple weeks. It's kind of been, it made a move above the 200-day moving average, sat back, found support. So I did add this in the beginning of the day, so I'm up a little bit of money in this one. Also, JP Morgan. JP Morgan was in my weekend newsletter as well as BlackRock was. It looks like they went after some calls here in this name all the way out to September. They kept on trading like a couple 1,500 lots in the 105 call. So I actually went into a few of these just as a starter position. The reason why just a starter position, because I really have been apprehensive about getting long a bank, but we'll see. We'll see. And I figured at this point maybe taking a small position considering I haven't traded the banks in months. Another name that caught my attention today was CIPR. Oh, nope, that's the wrong name. CPRI. CPRI. This is a name that had earnings. This is the handbag maker. It had good earnings and it completely just gave it all back. So really, the area of support is right into here. But I thought this was enough. There was some calls and some calls and puts went up. I tell you, it was really hard to figure out what they were doing. Sometimes I would rather just note that there's a little bit of call activity and not really try to figure out what they're trying to do. My stance always for where I see option activity, it's just an idea for me, and then I use my own model, my own levels of where to kind of abandon the trade because we never know what they're up to when we see option activity. So. But that did go up as a spread. Somebody asked me about it on Twitter. They're like, "Oh, there might have been a bull risk reversal." So again, my take for option activity is it can lead me to some names, give me some trade ideas, but I don't know. Some people almost I think would rather see good option activity than profits, which I don't really understand, but it just is what it is. Everybody's following it these days. A few other names so let me talk a little bit about Bitcoin. GBTC, right? So the GBTC is not Bitcoin. First of all, it's a trust that they had a split. I think 99, 1 for 99 split or something like that for Bitcoin. Or sorry, I keep saying Bitcoin. I know it's not Bitcoin. This is a trust that holds some Bitcoin in it. Let's see. Let's give the raw numbers so that you can make your own decision for this thing. But yeah, they had a 99 for 1 stock split to bring this thing down to like $5. And you could see where it is. Look at the volume today. It's back above value. There still is a decent premium with this stuff, so you just have to be aware of that. So if you do GBTC. NAV, and I think it's a lot less than it used to be. So remember, this is let's see, the blue line is NAV, and the white line was price. So you could see the price. There was a huge premium, like a 70% premium, and you could see that's trickled down. The average, which is this blue line highlighted, is 39% since the life of this fund. It appears, or the time frame that I'm looking at. You can see it's down to 20. So there's still a 20% premium. But of course, when this thing goes, a whole bunch of names, a whole bunch of Bitcoin or blockchain related names tend to go up. So Overstock, what is this? OSTK was probably the leader in the space, up 12%. There was some rumors on this name. You got a $26 VPOC up there. That would be nice if you're holding this one. XNET, which I believe is also, it says it's a media name, but look at the volume on this thing. So again, another $4 stock. Even Riot was up huge. Remember Riot blockchain? Look at the volume in this thing. Took out so very symbolic of how a VPOC works, right? Price is way below. You get out of value, you take out a virgin point of control, and it reverts. So still up 34% today. I think at one point it was up 50%. Coming from what 240 was the closing price. So these things, they're just like the what we're seeing now with the cannabis names. Just they have a lot of momentum to them. You have to be really disciplined. I don't trade a lot of these things because Well, I'll give you my excuse. I'm watching the tape all day long, and if you're trading one of these things, same thing with the cannabis names, right? The Tillery, the Cron, the CGC. You can't really move away from these names too much because they just move too fast, right? So you really have to have not one eye but maybe two eyes, or set all kinds of alerts if you're gonna traffic in these names because there's just so much momentum. It's kind of why I have not been participating too much. I just don't have the bandwidth personally to be trading the Cron and the CGC. So that was definitely one of the moves, and then gold. So yeah, so XNet, by the way, why I brought this name up at the end of the day, there was some calls that went up. So, you know, the way I would handle this stuff, and of course the videos for information purposes only. So if you want to take a shot on one of these things, they all kind of move together. Once they all go, once one goes up, they all go up. So if Bitcoin continues to go up, I would watch names like XNet, Overstock, Riot, Blockchain. These things will all gather some momentum, is my opinion. So that was the one move, and then gold really was interesting too. Really tough to chase gold. Same thing with some of the names I've already covered in like the blockchain world. You kind of have to get in them when they have an off day because chasing is really tough. It seems like whenever I chase gold, it just falls apart. But we have a couple events this week. It could be why I don't know why gold was so big today. Finished up 1.7%. Got over that 13, back over that 1300 handle. Real nice, by the way, moving to the 20-day moving average. So close on the absolute highs today. And the gold miners didn't look bad either. This finished, up 3%. This was your best performing group. GDXJ was actually up 4% today. So this also had momentum. So again, I don't know if that's related, Bitcoin and gold somehow moving together. But you got Fed minutes this week, and then you also have, the trade deal. So kind of some interesting moves there. A couple other names that we saw, but really I think those were the areas that had a lot of momentum to them. FCX, a lot of spreads that went up, and Freeport, excuse me. And this goes along with copper. Copper was also very strong. My play in this, and I try not to kind of double up plays, but I'm long emerging markets, which are very sensitive to copper. They kind of have a nice correlation. So I'm just gonna kind of stick here in my EEM trade. I put a little bit of it back on. I think I got into this somewhere in here. Took I took 1 or 2 days. I took profits really decently. And then I've just been sitting with this last piece, and I added to it just a little bit. But, that's it. A couple of the other names that have been on my radar. Let me just bring up today's option activity. There's some activity like Small Visa, Small Disney. Both of these have been names that I've been looking at as well. Looks like I got Visa on here twice. LPX also saw some calls. Twilio had a really nice day today after this one quietly closed on the highs of the day. Look at the support that it found. A few different traders were playing that one last week after earnings. Just you kind of felt like it was going to get bought again after a few days, and it's the wait 3 days after earnings report. Really nice in this one. So, what didn't I do today? Some names that I had on the watch list. ISRG, I'll be watching this tomorrow. Again, it's just really tough to add a bunch of trades. I think right now, I try to kind of, if I'm going to add new trades, I try to either take some trades off that maybe aren't working, but there aren't really a lot of names that I want to take off here. I did that a little bit on Friday, but yeah, this whole group. XHE just had a small day today. That's really what I'm watching. Medical companies had a big day on Friday. So, Tandem was one name that I'm watching, kind of gave back some of those gains. But that's fine. Let them cool off a little bit. And then ABMD is another one. So ISRG, ABMD, these are tough names to play in stock. So that's why I'm just watching XHE. One trade that I floated earlier was if you like ISRG, I think the best way to kind of execute some of these trades via option is call spreads. Maybe look to the 560, the March 560, 580. call spread. And if this thing gets going, you can kind of play for a move back to the 52-week highs there. I think that's a good way to play it, where you're not risking a lot. And again, you could do that via a call spread, considering it's a $550 stock. All right, so I'll leave it there for the day. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.